Hello, welcome to another installment in our series called Talk About here at Jefferson County Library. Tonight we have our guest speaker, Haley Takagi. She is here to inform us on all things tattoos. She has been doing tattoos for 7 years now. She has a private studio in Redmond. She went to trade school in Portland at Necropolis. And now, without further ado, Haley.
Hi there. So, I'm going to be covering quite a few different subjects, all centered around tattoos. I'll be going over how they got started, the science behind them, a little glimpse behind the scenes of what exactly happens, and answering some common questions like, can tattoos be removed? Do they hurt? And how do you make an appointment? And finally, why can tattoos be so darn addictive? So, the oldest human ever found was discovered in 1991. A mummified Iceman from the Alps named Otzi is believed to be 5,300 years old, dating back to 3000 BC. And he has tattoos. Patterned charcoal lines and X's were found along his spine, on his side, and around the ankles. A theory is that these were early signs of acupuncture. There's that. And then, it's safe to say tattooing covers many historical cultures, making it nearly impossible to find its true origins. Crusaders got the Jerusalem cross in order to ensure a Christian burial if they died on the battlefield. And Roman soldiers had military tattoos showing their rank in company. Tattoos do have a bit of a darker history of it having involuntary tattoos done to prisoners, slaves, and mercenaries. Greeks and Romans were especially known for marking their slaves on the arms, chest, and foreheads to discourage escape and desertion. The markings usually were the owner's initials or a phrase reading "taxes paid." The Japanese also marked their prisoners dating back to the Edo period. They were called tattoo penalties, and they replaced many beheadings and the removal of limbs. Head tattoos were murderers, while thieves were marked on their arms. The markings represent the type of crime that was committed and the prison's location, making it easy for identification in case of escape. At the time, the Japanese emperor was the only one who was allowed to wear very elaborate robes. And prisoners who got out of prison weren't very big fans of the guy. So, in retaliation, they decided to decorate their penal tattoos with beautiful designs coming from wood block engravings and popular literature and folklore. And many of them covered their bodies in a way that wouldn't show outside of normal clothing. The Yakuza gang is most famous for their tattoos, and that they say they represent lifelong loyalty and courage. In Nazi Germany, concentration camps used number tattoos to identify their Jewish prisoners. Holocaust survivors look at their tattoos today as badges of bravery, even considered an heirloom, as many offspring of the survivors also had their numbers tattooed on them. Maori tattoos are considered a rite of passage. It's said that if you shied away from the chiseling of your moko design, your unfinished tattoo would be a sign of cowardice. So, how did tattoos come to the West? In 1776, before he discovered Hawaii, Captain James Cook found Tahiti and its beautifully decorated people. Men and women. The word tattoo comes from the Tahitian word tatau, which means to mark. The crew were fascinated by them and learned and participated in its practice. The crew called them tattoos versus calling them scarrings, paintings, or stainings. It just sounded cooler. The tattoos that they got were mostly symbols of travels and life experience. The classic anchor tattoo means you've traveled across the Atlantic, and if you cross the equator, then it's time to get your turtle tattoo. When James and his men went back to England, their new body modification sparked much popularity, even making its way to Victorian high society. That doesn't mean tattoos were widely accepted, though. They were still looked out upon. Just hiding her face. But behind closed doors, many people had them. It was even said that Queen Victoria herself had one of a tiger fighting a python. I couldn't find a photo or a rendition of it, unfortunately. So a little bit about the tattoo machine's history is Cook's crew might have experienced their tattoo application with these types of chiseling tools. They were typically made out of animal bones, boar's teeth, and porcupine quills, even fish scales and fish barbs. About 100 years after Cook's expedition, the guy who invented the light bulb, Thomas Edison, invented a motorized pen, a tool used for duplicating handwritten documents and drawings. It was the first ever motorized appliance that people could actually buy. In 1891, Samuel O'Reilly patented the first ever tattoo machine in New York. The design was heavily based on Edison's design, as you can tell, working with the same method with an electric current and magnets. Chatham City, ooh, say that 10 times fast. New York was the first place in America to practice tattooing by a man named Martin Hildebrand. This lovely gentleman here. He mostly serviced soldiers who fought in the Civil War, and he didn't discriminate. He tattooed both the North and South. In 1961, tattoos were actually banned in New York due to a hepatitis B outbreak, all the way up until 1997. All right, so now we're going to go over some inks. American-made inks are managed by the FDA today. However, manufacturers still are not required to reveal their ingredients or even conduct trials on their products. This is why it's very important to go to a professional tattoo artist, because they are the ones that have access to the FDA-approved products, and they do their own trials and research. Inks are made up of 2/3 pigment and 1/3 water. There are two types of pigments. There's organic and inorganic. Even though organic sounds better, it actually doesn't work that great. Your body is more easily can detect it, and so it will make it fade away or eat it up. Organic pigments can be plants, insects, soot, and blood. Most pigments are actually made up of metals, metal salts, and plastics. Reds and blacks come from iron oxides, or rust. Yellow from cadmium, and green from chromium, both of which are very highly toxic on their own and can cause cancer. But thanks to science, it is okay to use for inks. So a little bit behind that science of it is... little side note. Some inks do, since the inks do contain metals, if you go into an MRI machine, it can actually cause them to burn or sting. So pigment molecules vary in size. The goal of ink development is to get the molecules to equal size for less rejection of the body. They do that by messing with three components. One are dispersants, surfactants, and preservatives. Dispersants are responsible for coating these particles to remove oxygen. Basically, if you picture a crumpled up piece of paper, all the creases in there, that's where oxygen would be trapped. And dispersants help coat that to where it's nice and smooth. This makes for even distribution of particles. Surfactants they change the surface tension of the liquid, which will make it glide into the skin easier. And then finally, preservatives, which help keep bacteria out of the inks. Needles. Tattoo needles come in all different shapes and sizes. These are the more modern ones. These are called cartridges. Much like paintbrushes, it depends on what your project is. So these are the layouts of the needles. These round shaders or round liners are typically used for lining. much like a round brush when you're painting. They're all shaped like a cone. For shading, they are arranged in this manner up top, much like a flat brush. And you can have as little or as many needles in the tip of your needles as you want. It all depends on the project. This is a massive shader with 112 needles. These are usually used for the black work style, which means just all black on certain areas of the skin. Needles should be single use. A green flag to look for in an artist is if they open their needles in front of you. They should be in packs such like these, with dates or blue dots indicating it's sanitized correctly. If the dot is still red, it is not clean. How far do these needles actually go into the skin? We lose 1 million skin cells a day. Why doesn't the tattoo come off too? There are 3 layers to the skin. The top layer is your epidermis, the layer that sheds. The second layer is your dermis, and this is where your hair follicles, some nerve endings, and blood vessels are. And the third is your subcutaneous layer, or the fatty layer. The second layer is the sweet spot. If tattoos are too shallow, it will come off with the epidermis. If tattoos are too deep and penetrate the fatty layer, it causes blowouts. These are permanent bruise-like marks that can only be corrected through a cover-up, which is a new design over an old one, or laser removal. Laser removal. All right, so this will answer the question, can tattoos be removed? So, and how does this work? Much like your favorite sci-fi film, a laser is used to blast stuff apart. In this case, it is used to penetrate the skin and blast apart the ink particles that make up your tattoo. In the normal tattoo process, your brain gets the signal that your body is wounded and sends inflammatories and little healers called microphages, or as I like to call them, micromages, because they're healers, you know. And they will help heal the skin by eating the particles and taking them to your lymph nodes, which then get filtered out into your waist. So you can poo out your tattoo, technically. Let's see. So as far as what laser removal does, it blasts apart those particles, so those micromages can come in and eat the rest of the particles. That's a little before and after. Probably a good decision that guy got that removed, huh? Some colors are harder to remove than others. Black is the easiest. Laser treatment also, so here's an example of how colors are a little bit harder to remove. Laser removal, once the particle, laser treatment can also cause burns and often take several passes to complete. This is a nice little example of what happens after laser tattoo removal. Most people say that it is actually more painful than the tattoo. All right, so we'll talk actually a little bit about tattoo pain. I have a bit of a myth buster question. Do bony areas hurt more than padded ones? Yes, no, maybe? No. Not true. Like I mentioned before, nerve endings are in your skin, so it doesn't matter where it is, it's still gonna hurt. General rule is parts that are close to major arteries or don't see the sun very often will hurt more. Everyone is different, but the sensation of getting a tattoo can be described as a sharp scratch, usually while lining, or a hot burning feeling, which is shading. It's tolerable, more of an annoyance than a jump out of your seat kind of a pain. You just have to find your zen. Pain depends on design complexity as well. So obviously a tattoo that is smaller is not going to take as long, so it's not going to hurt as much, versus one that is a full sleeve and covering more surface area that will start to feel a little ouchy after a bit. Artist techniques also matter. So I'm sure you've heard the term heavy-handed versus light-handed. Heavy-handed technically means that the artist is just trying to work faster, which means their machine voltage is turned up higher, which means the needle's going up and down a lot faster, causing more trauma to the skin at a higher rate, and they're just trying to get it done. So that's usually a heavy-handed. I've been considered light-handed because I don't like to really hurt people, believe it or not. So, here's another little myth buster. Does white ink hurt more? Yes and no. For color application, you work from your darks to your lights. So leaving white to be the very last finishing touch on a piece. That might have been a few hours in, and the client might be pretty sore at that point. So the ink isn't probably the culprit for the pain at that point, more just like the end of the tattoo session. But that being said, you do have to pack in lighter colors with more aggression to ensure visibility, which can be more painful. Typically at the beginning of your tattoo, your pain's gonna be pretty high, but as time goes on, the pain will go down a little bit. It might spike a couple of times depending on the area, but then your body will hit a point of, okay, I'm done. All the natural painkillers will stop flowing, and then everything's just gonna really hurt, and that's a good time to stop for the day. Sessions are a thing with tattooing as well. Some tips to manage your pain during a tattoo would be make sure you get enough rest. If you get a really good night's sleep and you come in really refreshed and optimal, then you're gonna have a lot better of an experience. No hangovers or drinking, avoid alcohol. I mean, just getting tattooed hungover is really not fun. And then alcohol actually thins your blood, which makes for a messier time for your artist. So it's more of like, it should heal okay, but it's more of an annoyance on the artist's point. So also avoid painkillers as far as pills. They actually don't help with skin trauma at all. It's more like deep muscle stuff, not for tattoos. Be sure to take care of your skin and moisturize. This allows for easier removal of excess ink and better and faster healing. Also, eat at least 4 hours before your appointment, so your body can produce more of those natural painkillers. And also, it will keep your blood sugar from dropping, and that will also prevent fainting, which is not fun. Bring snacks and water just in case. And also bring a distraction, like music to listen to, watch TV. In my shop, I have my TV set up with Netflix or anything that you want to watch. It's a great distraction. I usually put on a comedy, so you're just laughing through the whole thing. And then also make sure to communicate with your artist. If you need a break or some water or anything, just make sure to tell us so we can make sure it hurts as less as possible. Tattoos only hurt while you're getting them done. So the result of the pain will leave you with something that will last as long as you. I think this is kind of part of the tattoo addiction because you get pain amnesia because it is only during the tattoo, and then the healing process shouldn't be painful at all, which we'll go over in a second. But then you kind of forget the pain and then you want another one, and that's kind of how that starts. So aftercare. So tattoos should take about 2 to 4 weeks to heal, and they should behave much like a sunburn. Depends on what kind of aftercare your tattoo artist suggests to you. Nowadays, they do have medical bandages that are breathable that you can keep on for 4 days to a week. Some people keep them on longer, but I suggest around 4 to 5 days. The bandages will actually skip this step of kind of like a flaky, itchy stage. So this series of healing days for this tattoo is done the traditional way. I might even say this is done dry healing, so no ointment at all. But you can really see how the new layer of skin is growing over the new tattoo. And the goal is to make sure that that new thin layer of skin grows over your tattoo as seamlessly as possible. Scabbing or cuts in a healing tattoo are signs of overworked skin, and after a healing, it is most likely that that ink will actually come out too. So it's very important that your tattoo artist is not too heavy-handed and causing unnecessary trauma. Let's see. And then this one is a example of a tattoo healed with Saniderm, or that medical bandage I was talking about. As you can see, there is no flaky stage because she kept this on, it looks like, for 6 days. And then day 7, that new layer of skin is already grown, and there's no itchy, flaky, scabby, nothing. So this is again, the method that I use and suggest. Let's see. Yeah. Let's see here. If you do use this bandage, though, you still do have to put ointment on it every now and then, because it is technically healed, but can still be susceptible to infection, and that ointment will keep the bad bacteria out. Blistering and severe redness and pus are signs of an allergic reaction or infected tattoo and should be treated immediately. Okay. All right, so now that I've 100% convinced you to get a tattoo after showing you that nasty picture, how do you go about making an appointment? Number 1, research styles. There are all kinds of styles out there, especially nowadays. There's a plethora of artists. The staple styles to look out for would be old school, like James Cook's crew, in a way. Another one is new school, which was made popular in the East Coast. It's very cartoony, very dramatic, very colorful. And then another style is neo-traditional, which is my personal favorite. It is kind of a 20s Art Deco kind of a look. Very decorative with usually female faces. And illustrative, which are kind of like storybook illustrations. It can vary between cartoony and realistic. It's kind of a little combo of those. And then, of course, there's realism, which is self-explanatory. After you've found a style that best fits you, find an artist based on that style if you can. There are many ways to find artists on the internet, word of mouth, and walk-ins. And just make sure to check out their portfolio. After you find your artist, request a consultation. It's usually scheduled through email. So make sure to include a very descriptive, a description of your tattoo, as descriptive as you can. Also, make sure to include reference photos. Reference photos are very helpful for artists to get around kind of the idea that you're having. Granted, it's great when you get one that's, do whatever you want, or I don't know, but and you get some creative freedom, but it's always nice to know kind of where your brain is at, so we can make the drawing, exactly the way that you want it. Consultations, once you do schedule one, are typically for going over ideas and, most importantly, getting the vibe from your artist. Your tattoo experience will be with you forever, so it is very crucial to be picky about who does the tattoo for you. And after that, you'll schedule your tattoo day and you'll get a tattoo. All right, so how have tattoos improved in the last decade? Tattoos have become much more widely acceptable in today's age. About 1 in 4 people have them now. Social acceptability, I think, also contributes to the addictiveness of tattoos, because you want to show your friends, your family. There's shops everywhere. And there's all different style artists out there, so you can get whatever you want, basically. Ink formulas have also improved very much so in the last 10 years. This is a good example of them being super bright and vibrant, and that's a healed tattoo. And they can stay like that for a lot longer than they used to. There have also been equipment evolutions as far as wireless machines, which is my favorite thing, because nothing was worse than being tethered down to a cord, not being able to move exactly where you need to. And then also the development of disposable tools, and which made for cleaner shops. Everything you just throw away. Back in the day when I started, you'd have to actually hand scrub tattoo tubes and then put them in an autoclave, and yeah, it just was a mess. But now we have all disposable things, so that's great. So I hope I was able to teach you a few things about the practice that is as old as we are. And no matter how you feel about tattoos, you just appreciate them for what they are. As the naturalist aboard Cook's ship said of the tattooed Tahitians, everyone is marked, thus in different parts of his body, according maybe to his humor or different circumstances of his life. But in the end, all of them are beautiful. Yeah. Any questions at all about anything? I know we covered quite a few things, but yeah.
So as far as being allergic to ink, so would you recommend somebody get a small, like if they wanted to come in for a sleeve and they've never had one, like a smaller one first to test, or?
That's a really good question. A trend nowadays is actually tattoo swatches. So if a person wants to get a full color sleeve, but they're not sure how their skin will, number one, look with the color, or how their skin will react, they'll actually go into shops that will most of the time do this for free. And they will tattoo little lines or dots of each color, let it heal for 2 to 4 weeks and see how that does. And then if it is good, then they'll cover it up with whatever they're gonna do. So, yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
If your tattoo doesn't get infected in that picture how it showed, what happens if you don't get infected?
If you don't go to the doctors?
What happens if you don't get it in?
Like go to the doctor?
The infection.
Oh, your skin will die, and then you'll end up with a hole wherever it was. Yeah. Yeah, so it's very important to go to the hospital because they will administer antibiotics as well as proper bandaging, and then give you a different kind of aftercare to heal a deeper wound than a tattoo would be. So, yes.
So, what kind of ointment do you recommend under those patches? And do you okay?
Under the bandages?
Yeah.
So the bandages, it's actually just you and the bandage. So there's no ointment underneath.
Oh, I thought you said you added some.
Oh, afterwards, yeah. After the bandage is removed.
After, okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, okay, gotcha. And then where do you get those?
Most of the time your artist will provide you with an ointment. There are so many different kinds nowadays. Back in the day, it used to be just good old, Vaseline or Aquaphor. Aquaphor is still a really good one.
Andy and Aquaphor, but the bandages, can you get them on like Amazon?
Was it?
Yeah, it's,
Tagaderm?
Huh?
The bandage is Tagaderm?
Sanoderm.
Oh,
Very close, yeah.
Okay.
They have them at Bimart.
Oh, they do?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it's the same type of bandage that they would put over an IV in the hospital. It's like that flexible, plastic-y kind of stuff, but it's breathable, so.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Okay.
Yes.
So what's the favorite tattoo that you've done?
It's actually on my mom's back. I unfortunately wasn't able to put any images on there because of technical issues, but I did a whole entire back piece on my mom, and it was sentimental for me, but also it was kind of abstract. It was very more about feeling than an exact image, and all in black and gray, and it was really great. I love it. So, yeah.
So we're getting her into tattoos. She's got a tattoo gun at home. She got
Oh,
her
cool. Yeah.
She did some on an orange. She did pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I didn't scar the orange either.
That's good.
Yeah. But what would you suggest for she's 10, getting her more into that to make it, a career path? Are there programs, schools, training? How do you really become a professional?
Right. Okay.
At it.
Yeah. So the way that I did it, and the way that I would suggest, is to go for the state of Oregon. Each state is different in the way that you become licensed. In Oregon, you have to go to an actual trade school or a tattoo school, much like a cosmetology school. So you get so many hours and then so many tattoos, completed tattoos done. The criteria, the numbers change all the time. But what I would suggest and how I got into it is I barely practiced on my own. I got a little cheap machine off of Amazon, and then it came with practice skin, which are basically pieces of rubber. And I just doodled around a little bit. But what I wanted to try to avoid was learning something the wrong way and then going to school and being taught the right way, but still have that bad habit of the way that I learned it before. So what I would suggest is kind of keep your mind clear for a while. I mean, what I would really focus on right now is the art. I would dive into different kinds of artists, who inspires you. Maybe try to borrow some techniques that they use that you really appreciate. So during this time, I would really focus on that craft because the schools really do take really good care of you. They cover every basis. They're really professional. And you will finally get all that tattoo knowledge there the right way, first off the bat.
That's smart.
So,
and how old? I assume like 18 to get into.
yeah, 18.
Yeah, okay.
So here's the
Yeah.
my back.
Oh wow. That is gorgeous. Beautiful.
I love it. Is that a bird up top?
Yeah.
It's a hummingbird and then a raven.
That's cute.
And how long did that piece take you?
That piece took 3 sessions. 5 sessions?
It was 18 hours.
I thought it was 3 sessions. Oh yeah, 18 hours altogether. But yeah.
Because I couldn't handle it a few days.
Right, yeah.
We did a couple of 2s and a couple of 3s. And
Yeah. Yep, about 18 hours for a full back piece, but yeah. Yeah. Any other questions or?
Oh, actually, I have one more.
Yeah.
So I've used this stuff a couple times. It's called Painless Tattoo. You can get the generic, but it's got the lidocaine in it. Do you have any thoughts on that? It's worked really well. My tattoos look fine.
Yeah. I love it.
Okay.
I actually carry some in my shop as well.
Are you in Mattress?
I'm in Redmond.
Redmond.
Yep.
What's your shop called?
It's called Takagi Tattoo. I've got my own little private studio.
That's
so
cool.
yeah, by appointment only. I'll give you one of my cards. Yeah. But yeah.
So the stuff works magically. That's great. The lidocaine, the painless.
Yeah, it really does work. There's a lot of old school artists that don't like it because it takes away from the earning the tattoo part, which is such an outdated thing. Like, come on, guys, get with the science.
I got my serum here.
Dude, yeah, lather that thing up. But lidocaine can change the texture of the skin. It can actually make it a little bumpier, which again is just more of an annoyance than like an actual technical issue for the tattoo. So it's any tattoo artist that says no, I don't want to, then just it's their opinion. It's not scientific.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, lidocaine at least 5%. It's really great. It really helps get a lot of work done too for big sessions as well.
I was like twiddling my hair.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah, exactly. What else was I gonna say about that? Yeah, I guess that was it. Anyway. But yeah. Anything else?
so on the lidocaine, does it have to be put on before they come in, or do you put it on and then they just wait, or how does that work?
So lidocaine has to sit on the skin for at least 30 to 45 minutes for it to really soak in. And then even after that, there is a bit of a time constraint because it will start to fade away after a little bit. A little bit meaning like 2 hours or so. But if the client shows up with it already on, that's really great. But again, I do offer it at my studio, but I do charge a little bit for it just because we do have to sit there for an additional half hour to 45 minutes.
When I put it on, I just put it everywhere, all the times we've used it, and then I cover it with saran wrap.
Yeah.
And I take the saran wrap on me, and I let it set like 40 minutes, hour, and then it's good for a couple hours.
Yeah, it really helps with that first initial poke, and then by the time that it starts to fade away, it kind of like brings you into it rather than like slams you in, So it's good stuff. Yeah.
Cool.
Cool. Any other questions at all?
No.
No?
Just that this little gal is one of the most amazing artists I have ever met in my entire life.
Thank you.
You really are.
Aw, thanks. I try really hard to not be scary because I like to meet all kinds of people because they have all different kinds of ideas, and it's just so exciting as an artist to try to bring all those different kinds of ideas to life. I do many different styles, kind of a jack of all trades. The only one that I don't do, because I don't have a guinea pig to test on, is face portraits, like realism. That photorealistic photo I showed you earlier. That guy. I would like to get that good, but I do have to do a couple free tattoos in order to practice to do that. But I can draw. The portrait's great, but tattooing is unlike any medium that you've ever used before. It's way different than painting or colored pencils or even just with graphite. But that is all tattoos really are, is just a different art medium. That's really it. So Yeah.
So different skins. I mean, how do you know? I mean, everybody's skin's different and different textures. How long? What does it take for you to calculate? Okay, well, I've got to work this way or that way.
So being 7 years in, I've seen a lot of different kinds of skin. I've gotten to the point now where I can kind of poke around and just kind of look at the skin and figure out if it's going to have a good bounce back or if it's really crepey. As soon as I hit it with the needle, it's going to kind of cave in, not really come back. I also ask background questions like, do you have diabetes? Do you have like any health issues? Do you have skin issues? Do you have psoriasis or rashes or anything like that? You definitely never should tattoo sunburnt skin. That's like rule number one. There are also certain kinds of moles that you cannot tattoo over. I actually made the mistake in school of tattooing, just barely touching a mole, and the whole thing just filled up with ink and it stayed dark forever. So types of skin vary, but it's not until you actually initially start that you'll really get an idea of how the tattoo is going to behave. Generally, you start slow, and as you get comfortable with the person's skin, then you can go a little bit faster. So,
How about the age of skin?
age of skin matters, yeah. Like I said, it's how much bounce back the skin will have after trauma. But as long as you're good, you know how to get it into that epidermis, or the dermis, the second layer, it should be just as vibrant as any of these. So the oldest person I've tattooed was 84. Yeah. Yes.
I wanted to tell you that I'm an artist too.
That's great.
Yeah, and I painted like, you know how like a moon, sometimes people paint a moon, first outline it with pencil.
Mm-hmm.
Then once you're done, you like, I just drew a cow and a moon.
Nice. Very good. Yeah, draw everything.
Once the paint dried, I used pastel to make the stars and moon blue.
Clever. Yeah, mess with as many mediums as you can, and then tattooing you'll get eventually. So heck yeah, dude.
Speaking of drawings, what medium do you use to draw?
Oh, I guess this would be another technological advancement in the last decade. A lot of tattoo artists use iPads now, which have drawing programs already in them, and they're free. It's called Procreate. It's really helpful. And you can draw directly with a pen on your iPad, and with it being on the computer, basically, there's so many faster and easier ways to manipulate things or undo, or versus the traditional way with like an actual pen. If you made a mistake, you'd have to, ink it out, or, so it's actually made art a lot faster to develop. So iPads I use personally. Sometimes I will do, I learned the traditional way. I was in school just before the iPad deal became like a mainstream thing. So I was trained to do stencils by hand, use ballpoint pens and whatnot. So yeah. Yes.
What about tattooing over scars? Is that different? Is that something that...
Yeah, tattooing over scars is a thing. It, like I talked about before with different kinds of skin, if there is a specific scar that you want covered, a consultation is basically a must, because you have to look over the area and determine whether it is doable or not. Some scarring can result in skin that is too thin, to where it could just blow it out, even if you're being super careful. But generally, thicker scars that have been raised, you can tattoo over, but it won't get rid of the texture of that scar. So there'll be an image over it, but it'll be like, say it's a really bad scar or something, it will kind of look like it was on a crumpled up piece of paper or something. So, yeah.
So if somebody wanted to use a tablet, how long would it take them to get proficient at using an iPad?
Depends.
Drawing.
Totally depends on your level of intake for knowledge on learning how to work around a program, and then also what style you draw in. But And YouTube is amazing now. They've got tutorials for anything that you can think of, even tattooing tutorials. But yeah, so it really depends. But, yeah.
So at the schools now, are they teaching on iPads? Do they still teach the traditional way?
I would assume so. Yeah. We also learned with old school like coil machines, which are like with almost like what Edison had. But they'll teach you how to break them apart, put them back together. Basically, the difference between coil tattoo machines and newer ones that are called rotaries. You can fine tune coil machines like a hot rod versus like a Tesla. They're way more customizable. People still actually make their own needle tips as well, as long as they do the sanitation process. But yeah, they're just a lot more fine tunable versus a rotary. They come as they are, and if you need anything done to them, you have to send them in to get them done. So yeah. All right. Anyone else? No? Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very enjoyable. Thank you everyone for coming. All right. We'll try and put on some more talkabouts coming up in the season. Thank you so much for all the engagement. And if you do know a tattoo artist, but you don't want to get a tattoo, I have some beautiful Haley pieces hanging in my house. They truly are artists on many mediums. So, all right. Thank you everyone for coming.
Thank you.